To push a human being out of Earth's atmosphere, we rely entirely on brute force. We build towering silos of chemical fuel and ignite them. We ride the controlled explosion to escape velocity. Look at the solar system. The sun, a massive burning sphere, maintains its central position and holds planets in perfect orbit without engines, combustible fuel, or captains steering a course. This mechanical disparity is the starting point for the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, an alternative physics research group that has recently gained significant traction among researchers in Latin America and China. They ask a precise question. If celestial bodies and subatomic particles maintain infinite dynamic spatial relationships without thrust, what mechanism are human engineers overlooking? Their theoretical framework argues that space transit, and even the creation of matter itself, does not require external propulsion. These feats can be achieved strictly through the manipulation of internal force fields. By decoding this model, we can examine a roadmap designed to move aerospace engineering away from chemical combustion and into the mechanics of plasmatic gradient engineering. The Keshe model rests on a single axiom. Physical forces do not exist in isolation. Every entity, regardless of size, inherently possesses a dual field. Within this framework, gravity is not conceptualized as a curvature in spacetime. It is strictly the active force of attraction, the pull that draws entities together. The required counterpart to this pull is the magnetic field. Here, magnetism is defined purely as the active force of repulsion, pushing entities apart. To physicalize this, researchers demonstrate the concept using simple ring magnets. As this diagram shows, when two of these entities approach one another, their respective gravitational pull and magnetic push begin to interact. They negotiate a point of static equilibrium. Once that push and pull cancel each other out, the exact spatial distance between those two objects is locked. These interacting forces are not flat, two-dimensional planes spreading across a surface. They operate as deep, volumetric spheres in a state of constant flux. Because these dynamic fields push and pull outward in all directions equally, they physically dictate the spherical shape of the celestial bodies they encompass. This localized balance dictates architecture across the universe, scaling identically from the rotation of subatomic particles to the orbits of massive star clusters. The vast distances between planets and the tight bonds of atoms are never arbitrary. They are the strict mathematical outputs of a localized dual-field equilibrium. To scale this concept up to planetary mechanics, we have to establish exactly what constitutes mass. Looking at this scale, mass is defined strictly as the measured difference between the gravitational and magnetic field strengths contained within a single entity. The entity with the larger mass, which holds the stronger field intensity, inherently dictates the positioning and the motion of the smaller entity. Think of an adult holding a child by the hands and spinning in a circle. The immense field gradient of the larger body easily forces the smaller one into continuous, sweeping motion. This macro rule of field gradients translates directly to the mechanical engineering of the Keshe spaceship program. When designing a craft, engineers must accept an environmental constant. The massive gravitational and magnetic field of the Earth is fixed. It cannot be altered. The variable in this equation is the spacecraft itself, equipped with a tiny 2 to 3 millimeter spherical aluminum plasma reactor. By artificially intensifying the reactor's internal attractive field, the craft pulls itself tighter against the fixed mass of the planet. Conversely, by intensifying the reactor's repulsive field, it pushes hard against the Earth's fixed anchor, propelling the craft outward into space. Manipulating this gradient requires absolutely zero chemical fuel. The entire transit system relies on continuously adjusting these internal plasma states. Space travel becomes an exercise in localized field manipulation. You do not generate external thrust. You adjust an internal gradient to fall toward or repel away from a massive celestial anchor. This precise gradient engineering does not stop at the hull of a spacecraft. It applies equally to the microscopic architecture of an atom. The exact same push and pull relationship that moves a ship dictates how many electrons naturally lock into orbit around a single proton. This model illustrates how, by artificially adjusting the microscopic field gradient of that central proton, you can dictate electron counts, effectively transmuting base matter into entirely new elements. In this process, electrical current plays a highly limited role. Electricity only manifests as a byproduct after physical matter is fully formed. The true creative mechanics of the universe operate below the electrical threshold, down at the foundational plasma level, where these dual forces originate. Grasping this hierarchy helps explain why early pioneers of modern physics struggle to harness the complete forces of creation. Nikola Tesla achieved an incredibly deep understanding of the magnetic side of the equation. He mapped the force of repulsion perfectly, but he failed to integrate the required gravitational counterpart. Later researchers, like Professor Miles, successfully mapped those attractive scalar or gravitational fields, but similarly ignored the necessary repulsive elements. Neither camp realized they were isolating two inseparable halves of the exact same unified entity. Treating gravity and magnetism as isolated, distinct forces stalls our ability to manipulate matter. Only by pairing them deliberately can we tap into the actual creative engine of the universe. We can confirm this dual-field architecture by looking directly at the geological mechanics of our own planet. Standard geological models rely on dynamo theory, proposing that Earth's magnetic fields are generated by the intense mechanical friction of a solid, rotating iron core. This model treats planetary physics like a bicycle light, assuming mechanical friction is required to generate power. Modern seismic data contradicts this, revealing that the innermost center of the Earth is not a static, solid block of iron. Looking at this cross-section, the Kesh alternative posits that Earth contains an inner core, a highly dynamic chamber known as the Caroline core. It is the continuous field interaction between this fluctuating core and the outer core that generates the planet's massive gravitational magnetic anchor. The mechanics inside the core of the Earth operate exactly like the mechanics inside a microscopic proton, and exactly like the internal fields of a 3mm aluminum plasma reactor. This is the unifying law of the Kesh framework. Physical reality is built on a singular, infinitely scalable fractal principle. Whether you are attempting to navigate across a galaxy or synthesize a new atom, the mechanism is identically driven by the equilibrium of inseparable attractive and repulsive forces. The next technological leap does not require us to violently fight these forces with chemical combustion. It requires us to master their internal gradients, commanding motion and matter through perfect physical balance.